House of EdTech, Episode 29.
I am Patricia Brown from MissEdTechy.com, and you're listening to the House of EdTech with Chris Nessie.
This episode of House of EdTech is brought to you by todaysmeet.com. Add back channeling to your classroom today by visiting todaysmeet.com/House of EdTech. Welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. I am your host, Christopher Nessie, and the House of EdTech podcast explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. My objectives include discussing technology that is changing our classrooms and schools and sharing information you can hear about today and use tomorrow. I talk to teachers, leaders, and creators like you and have them share their stories. The purpose being, whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way we teach and how our students learn. Coming up in this episode, I have a great House of EdTech thought, I have a really cool Edtech recommendation, and of course, another House of EdTech VIP. My featured guest in this episode is Courtney Kofeldt. She's a technology coordinator and English teacher in Pennsylvania, and she has a very unique story to tell. But before I share that conversation with you, I would like to take a moment to publicly thank Steve Figarelli and Kristen Tessoy from the Edison Public School District, who coordinated the recent Edtech NJ conference. This was the second year of Edtech NJ, and I had the opportunity to present at the conference for the second year in a row. And this year I talked about creating content as opposed to curating content. I had a great time. And thank you to those who came out to my workshop and enjoyed it. And if you're now tuning into an episode of the House of EdTech after attending that session, thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. And I do look forward to more conferences coming up this year. And of course, I'll look to present at Edtech NJ in 2016. Thanks again for a great conference, everybody. And now, let's get to the featured content and my conversation with Courtney Kofeldt. I'm very excited today to be speaking with Miss Courtney Kofeldt. She is an English teacher and technology coordinator for the Pennsylvania Leadership Charter School, which is an online cyber school in Pennsylvania. Courtney's background includes a bachelor's in English and language art teacher education from Elizabethtown College, and she also has her master's degree in education from Wilkes University. Let's dive right in and learn all about cyber schools. Welcome to the House of EdTech, Courtney.
Hi, everyone. My name's Courtney Kofeldt, like Chris said. I am very excited to share my teaching experience and my technology coordinator experience at a cyber school.
All right, Courtney, let's dive right in. What is the student makeup at your school? And talk a little bit about how exactly a cyber school works.
Absolutely, yes. We have students from K to 12 who are learning online. We do have a few blended centers where some students are coming into a building and they have a facilitator there, but they still are using our lessons to get the content. Then we have a University Scholars Program, which is for gifted and talented students. So they have half of their experience in a normal brick and mortar setting, but they also do some of their classes online.
Are all the students at your school enrolled from the time they're in kindergarten through grade 12? Or do you acquire students, along the way in later grades? And can you talk a little bit also about average class size in a cyber school?
We have an extremely diverse population where, yes, there are a percentage of students, which I would say at the secondary level, it's probably around 40% of our students have been there since kindergarten. Yes, our kindergarten classes are a lot smaller, but we do find that at the high school level, we are drawing more students in, maybe for they have anxiety problems in a normal classroom setting, and we're an environment that's more conducive to their learning needs. We do have some teen moms that are looking to still get their degree, and they're able to do that through the online setting where they can be home. And a lot of athletes we draw to our school. It's just a very good alternative to a variety of students, and I think our population reflects that. So for a high school English class, we have 4 tracks. There's honors, college prep, academic, and then a 4th track, which is lower reading level of students. I would say the academic level and college prep level are the largest population of students at PALC. So we have, I would say, about 100 in that course, where you would say that split up into 4 different classes in a big brick and mortar setting.
What was most appealing about working for a cyber school?
When I was in college, I took several integrating technology classes. I became very close with my teacher, and just the amount of resources that are available for students. And when you get into a normal classroom setting, the devices aren't there, the equipment isn't available, but in an online setting, that is your go-to, and you're able to incorporate that on a daily basis. I think it's the wave of the future. I was very excited to kind of right off the bat get involved in a cyber school.
Were you always interested in technology before you got this job?
I absolutely was. My passion for it has just grown from each year. I really, truly enjoy researching and following other teachers' blogs and how they're using it maybe in the brick and mortar setting and how I can adapt it for the cyber environment. My involvement in the EdTech world is just developing each year.
Now, Courtney, I'm sure there are a lot of preconceived notions about working in a cyber school environment. Can you talk a little bit about and describe a typical workday for you as a teacher in a cyber school?
At Pennsylvania Leadership Charter School, we have a building, several buildings actually, because we cover all Pennsylvania. One of our buildings is in Westchester, and all the teachers go in to work every day. And we have also a building in Pittsburgh where the other half of our teachers are from, and they attend and work there. And a typical day for a teacher at PALCS, they come in, they check their emails, and then we have a messaging, like an instant messaging system with students. And we use Moodle as our LMS system. So they go into Moodle, they check to see if they have any messages from students, try to get back as quickly as possible. We have a 24-hour response for students that if they have a question, we need to meet that need within 24 hours. Then I would say that we have our virtual lessons. For math, a teacher is doing a virtual lesson through Adobe Connect, and that will be an hour of the day for each of their classes that they have to prep for. And a teacher at PALCS will have around 2 to 3 preps that they have to cover. So the virtual lessons, planning for those, and then also we post lessons through Moodle, and those consist of exit tickets where they're assignment uploads, or forums where students can collaborate with the teacher and their peers, and then a lot of grading as well.
How do you plan out your teaching? And also, even though you work in a completely online environment, how do you integrate technology into your instruction, again, in the unique environment that you work in?
To prepare, I obviously I use backward design to plan my units out. I then start looking for resources, and I really use the SAMR model, where I can take the technology and not just use it as another form of pen to paper, but actually have students creating materials that they can really demonstrate their knowledge, higher order thinking. And I think that's the biggest challenge online, where we need to ensure that we're hitting those higher order thinking skills so students can't just look up the information. So I spend a lot of my time really trying to create assessments that are challenging students and really allowing them to demonstrate their skills.
Courtney, do you have the opportunity in your school to do, I guess, quote unquote, live teaching? And if so, how does live teaching work in a cyber environment?
The virtual lessons are live, and those occur every day. For content, we develop a content schedule. So math has this time slot on Monday at 9 o'clock. English has 10 o'clock, and it goes that way throughout the week. And they're not mandatory for students, but it's required for teachers to record those live lessons. So we do hold students accountable for that material.
When you're doing these live lessons, can your students interact with you, and can they also interact with each other?
Yes. So we use Adobe Connect, and now we're also starting to use Zoom. Students come in, and the teachers have their cameras on. So it's important to put that face for students and really develop that personal connection with them. We don't require our students, but they have the capability of turning on their cameras. They all have webcams that they can, but like I said, some of our students do have social anxiety, so they choose not to, but we do have that option. And then they have their microphones that they can communicate and collaborate, and also a chat box within it. So if they rather just type their responses and participate, they can do that there as well. With the cameras, everyone sees everyone else's camera. They can choose with the chat box to submit a question only to the teacher, or they could submit it to the whole class. So that's nice if maybe a student's not confident in their answers, where in a brick and mortar classroom setting, they couldn't privately say their answer to you. They would have to raise their hand in front of the class. But in our setting, they can just privately message you their answer.
Another aspect about the cyber environment I'm curious about, based on what I do, what, if any, discipline issues exist in this online setting?
I would say teachers at PALCS like to build in the social aspect, because it is important, because they're not able to sit with their classmates. So a lot of teachers will say, all right, we can begin our virtual lesson. You guys can kind of recap with each other. Sometimes students do get off track, but you allow for that social time at the beginning. Say, all right, I'm going to start the recording now. We're going to focus on the material for the lesson today. And it seems like students respond well to that, where they know that when they have to really get everything together, focus on the material.
What happens if a student is absent or needs to review a lesson that they miss?
Absolutely, yes. Yes. And we archive our virtual lessons in our course, so it's a nice way for them to maybe at the end of a unit, they go back and look at certain recordings to help them.
Courtney, talk a little bit about how you believe you've grown as a teacher over the first 5 years of your career with regard to how you integrate and use technology for teaching. Courtney, talk a little bit about how you believe you've grown as a teacher over the first 5 years of your career with regard to how you integrate and use technology for teaching.
I would say the amount of tools that I'm comfortable with using now, whereas at the beginning of the year, iSpring I would use all the time to kind of develop my lesson materials. But now I'm more comfortable with iMovie and Camtasia to create these personalized video experiences for students. And just looking at research to see, my 15-minute long iSpring isn't really going to capture the attention of students. I need to keep it under that 5-minute mark. I would also say the tools that are available to us in our LMS each year have been great too. It's always evolving, and we have a company that we work with to kind of change Moodle for us to meet our needs. So this year we actually have the capability of creating personal learning paths for up to 36 groups within our course. So for those 100 students, I can group those students. Maybe they need various support, and I can create personal learning paths for those different groups where they're not all seeing the same lesson.
Now, just for fun, because I'm a fan of time travel, what technology tool do you wish you had 5 years ago that you have today?
I think with the development of Google Drive, our students didn't have access to that 5 years ago. And I think that's really Google Apps for Ed. I think that's one of the best resources available. I think especially for maybe English and social studies teachers, because that writing process is really enhanced, I think, with the resources available with Google, such as Google Docs, where you can really see the revision history laid out for a research project or even group projects. You can see what students are contributing. And I think I would have included more group and collaborative work for my students if that was available.
How do students collaborate in your class? Do they have the opportunity to work together on projects?
Now that each of the students have Google Apps accounts, yes, they absolutely can, because with Google Slides, they can all work on that presentation together. And also with various tools too, I find that you can do that as well. Web 2.0 tools such as like WeVideo, they can create a full video together and create a wonderful product for their portfolio.
Now, Courtney, in addition to being an English teacher for PALCS, you're also a technology coordinator. What does that entail?
In this role as tech coordinator, I am a coach and aide for our teachers at PALCS, our K-12 teachers. I'm there as a resource and the first troubleshooting line for teachers if they're having issues within the Web 2.0 tool they're using. I kind of can provide them with some insight and ways that they can find a workaround for a Moodle, maybe a way to embed the resource directly into the course. I also am in charge of all of our online programs. We have accounts for Compass, where students are getting extra prescriptive work based on local assessments that they take. So I import all new students in there and get teachers accounts for those and tell them ways that they can really incorporate the tools in their classroom. I also present professional developments for teachers. So I did one on Web 2.0 tools that connect to the 21st century skills for students. So tools that will help students communicate more effectively, add creativity to their school work and products that they develop, and tools that will help them collaborate, as well as tools that enhance critical thinking.
What are some of your favorite tools that you recommend to teachers? And what's your favorite tool personally right now?
Okay, the tool that I recommend, that I use and I recommend many teachers to use is, I would say Doctopus, just because it really helps with organization and being able to push out materials to students in one seamless process. And then for students, I would say video notes, especially if maybe there isn't an active watching guide provided by a teacher. They can use video notes to kind of annotate a video that they can go back to, and rather than kind of trying to skip around on their own, it creates a skimming method that they can use. I would say my favorite tool, I started using BookTrack with my students, and as an English teacher and having them do creative writing assignments, and sometimes students are a little hesitant with that. BookTrack is a tool that they put their work into it, and then they can develop a soundtrack to their work. So it kind of just enhances the writing and reading experience for students. And I would say all the add-ons for Google Chrome, I think it really, really enhances the writing process. And I would say that's what I'm excited about in 2015.
Wow, Courtney, I just have to say thank you so much for taking time to come on to the podcast today to talk about what you do in the cyber school setting. You shared so much great information, and I'm very appreciative. Before I let you go, how can my listeners reach out to you if they have more questions about cyber schools or to get more recommendations and basically pick your brain about what you do with technology? How can they do that?
I use Twitter, so my Twitter handle is Miss MS _KOF. So if you want to tweet me or direct message me on there, please feel free to do so. I also have a LinkedIn, so if you want to connect with me via that, please do so as well.
Fantastic, Courtney. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Very nice talking to you, Chris.
And now I'd like to share with you my EdTech thought. This episode's thought was inspired by a blog post I read on the website slowchatpe.wordpress.com. For those of you that aren't familiar, SlowChatPE is a one-question-per-week Twitter chat that is related to physical education. However, on this website, which is maintained by Justin Schleider, who's a phys ed teacher in South Jersey, on the website he posted a blog post recently titled The Dark Side of the PLN. And I want to share with you a little bit from this blog post and also add some of my own thoughts to it. So here we go. A little bit from The Dark Side of the PLN. So here's what Justin says. Quote, "Your PLN should be made up of the greatest people you can find. I know mine definitely is. My PLN consists of people that create apps, create websites, create global projects, create backpacks with activities for students to do at home, know more about technology than the so-called experts, teachers of the year, authors, and the list goes on. I want the best and brightest at my fingertips to lead me to become the greatest teacher I can be. I found those people and continue to find more and learn every day. There is a downside to this, though. The part of you that lambastes yourself because you haven't wrote that book yet, participated in that global project, achieved that award, or created that groundbreaking activity. Let me make this clear. I am not hating on what other people have done. It is a feeling of jealousy and inadequacy of what I haven't done yet. I do not want what those people have. I want to do what those people are doing." Now again, Justin is a physical education teacher and he participates on Voxer and he's very active on Twitter. But what he's talking about is something I think many of us feel. We do connect with the quote-unquote edge rock stars out there who are, doing and publicizing these great things. And it seems like, everybody's got a Corwin Connected Educator Series book now. Nothing against those people, but I understand what Justin is saying. We want to do these things as teachers. It may not be about the recognition, and I don't think that these quote-unquote edge rock stars are out to be, famous, because when you boil it down, they're people and they're teachers. They're not Hollywood stars. They're not going to be on the E! Channel, for example. So let me get back to another excerpt from the post. To quote Justin again, "After much reflection, I have come to this conclusion. I cannot look at what other people are doing or have done and compare myself to them. I need to use them as the springboard to get ahead. My time is precious. I have to prioritize and figure out what do I want and how can I accomplish it. My PLN is there to propel me forward. When I am ready to write my book, I will have multiple people who can shine a light on the best way to accomplish this task. If my PLN was not so wonderful, then what would I aspire to? Do I want to be the top dog who knows everything and has done everything? No way. Who would assist me, push me, or inspire me? So if anyone else feels that they aren't doing enough, don't know enough, don't have enough time, or just plain feels inadequate, remember that your PLN is there to show you what is out there, not to make you feel like you haven't done enough." I agree with everything Justin says in the blog post in its entirety, and I just wanted to share that with all of you. So make sure you check out the website, slowchatpe.wordpress.com, and also connect with Justin Schleider on Twitter. Justin's Twitter handle is SchleiderJustin. That's SchleiderJustin. DERJUSTIN. And that's my EdTech thought. And now I'd like to share with you my EdTech recommendation for this episode. Today I'd like to talk to you about Twine. And that's found at twinery.org. TWINERY.org. And what is Twine? It's an open source tool for telling interactive, nonlinear stories. Or you can basically call it a choose your own adventure website. This recommendation came to me from Jay Eitner, previous House of EdTech VIP and guest, and I had the pleasure of seeing him at the EdTech NJ conference earlier, or really on January 31st, and I thought it was really cool. With Twine, you don't need to write any code to create a simple story, but you can extend your stories with variables, conditional logic, images, CSS, and JavaScript when you're ready. So you don't have to know anything, and then you can learn something and really take the creations and the stories to the next level. Twine publishes directly to HTML, so you can post your work basically anywhere. Anything you create with it is completely free to use any way you like, including commercial purposes. Twine was originally created by Chris Klimas, Klimas, in 2009, and is now maintained by a whole bunch of people at several different repositories. So check out Twine and create your own adventure story today, and check them out over at twinery.org. And that's this episode's EdTech recommendation. And now it's time for the House of EdTech VIP. This episode's VIP is Jasper Fox Sr. Jasper is a passionate learner who is a truly reflective practitioner. With over a decade of classroom experience specializing in teaching the earth sciences, Jasper has continually brought relevant technology use to students and staff. He is currently focusing on techniques to ensure that technology use is engaging and exciting, thus giving students a transformative experience. Jasper has spent the last 9 years working in New York State for the Lakeland Central School District, where he currently teaches 8th grade science. And as if that wasn't cool, Jasper Fox is also a podcaster. He currently hosts the Learning Lab radio podcast, which is available in iTunes, and you can also find it on his website, jasperfoxsenior.blogspot.com. I'm going to post links to, obviously, his podcast and his website. So if you're looking for another cool podcast to listen to, definitely check out Learning Lab Radio with Jasper Fox. Connect with him on Twitter. His username is JSPRFox, Fox, and again, his website is Jasper Fox Senior, and that's seniorsr.blogspot.com. Congratulations, Jasper. You are the House of EdTech VIP. Well, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of House of EdTech, sponsored by Today's Meet. Check out todaysmeet.com/houseofedtech to find out more about how you can add back-channeling to your classroom today. And keep the conversation going by visiting my website, chrisnessy.com. Check out the show notes for this episode, number 29, and I would love your thoughts on the information and resources shared in this episode, and all the episodes if you listen to them. You can leave a comment on the show notes, or you can email the show, feedback@chrisnessy.com, and you can also submit audio feedback by calling the House of EdTech listener feedback line, and the number is 732-903-4869. Or you can connect with me on Voxer. My username is cnessy, Nesi, 4602. Connect with me on Twitter as well. My username is Mr. Nessie, and anything related to this podcast, just tag with the hashtag House of EdTech, and then I can make sure I get those tweets and include them here on the podcast. Now, if you are enjoying the podcast, whether this is your first episode, or you've been in it since the beginning, or somewhere in between, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast in iTunes. Your 5-star rating and positive review will help keep the House of EdTech front and center for others to discover and enjoy. You can also show your support through patreon.com and visit patreon.com/House of EdTech. And basically through Patreon, that's a way you can contribute to what I'm doing here on the podcast for as little as $1 or basically as much as you want if you're really feeling like you'd like to support the show. I'd like to thank my patron currently, Jeff Herb, who is a patron of the show. Thank you so much for your contributions, Jeff. I really appreciate it. And you can also check out Jeff's content over on Instructional Tech Talk, which is a really awesome podcast. On the next episode of the podcast, I am going to be speaking with librarian and media specialist and makerspace maker extraordinaire, Laura Fleming from New Jersey at New Milford High School. So I'm very much looking forward to sharing my conversation with Laura. And I think that's it. Thank you for listening as always. And remember, using technology is not difficult. Just give it a try.